Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you guys for coming out on this beautiful, beautiful day that God has given us. As you may know, I'm sure you know, I hope you know, I'm not Raleigh. So I'm going to stumble my way through this. And Raleigh could not be here today. He is with his mom and dad. His mom had some pretty serious surgery going on, so he's down there with them. So I'm going to ask you guys, I'm going to ask Pastor Elliott to include him in our opening prayer, and I'm going to ask you guys to keep him and his family in your thoughts and prayers. He'll be back later this week. So we all miss him. We all love him, so let's pour that out. So, Pastor, if you'll want to open us in prayer, and I will... Hey, I did it. All right.
Well, Raleigh isn't here this week, and they gave me the clicker, so we might be in trouble. All right. It's wonderful to see you all here today. It looks a little lighter than normal. Maybe someone over to see the concert. That's okay, too. Let us bow our heads in prayer. Dearest Lord, Heavenly Father, we see the beauty of this day, and we know and we appreciate so greatly how you continue to care for us. You have established the Lutheran Haven. You continue to support the Lutheran Haven. You continue to sustain all of us day by day. Lord, help us now as we go through the appointments that are set before us in this meeting so that we might not only see what's going on, but ask those questions that help to make everything better. But also, Lord, we pause. We pause to pray for Raleigh and his family. We know that his mother has been through a very long surgery. And we ask that you would be with her, that you would continue to extend to her your healing hand, guiding the hearts, the minds, and the hands of all that are caring for her. Strengthen Raleigh to be at peace and, of course, to help guide whatever needs to be guided so that he can bring comfort to his mother and to his family. All these things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. All righty. So I said I was doing the slides. I'm in trouble. I'm holding a microphone. I only have one hand. This may not work. All right. There we go. Yeah, we start with worship like we do all the time, simply because it's easy. And I know you guys probably just bypass this mentally, but I ask you not to do so, obviously, because if you're new here, you need to know when the worship times are. The big change here is the afternoon divine service is not going to happen this month. We're asking you, since we have communion on Maundy Thursday, to come on the Maundy Thursday service. Pick one. There's communion at all of them. There will be a special place reserved for you so that if you're less mobile, you can come and sit there, and we will bring communion to you in your seats. Of course, that is the way it always works at the Harbor. So if you can worship at the Harbor, we'd love to have you there as well. That service is at 2 o'clock, which leads me to the Holy Week services. Guess what? Monday, Thursday, and Good Friday, the service times are exactly the same. In the sanctuary, it's 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. And at the Harbor across the street in the Blue Building, it is at 2 p.m. Now, we have some limitations there with emergency lighting, and it's so Good Friday isn't going to be as dark as you're used to seeing it, but that's okay. It'll all work. The service is the same, and we will be praising our Lord and Savior for his sacrifice for us that day. Easter services, we include the sunrise service over across the street, across Chapman at the cemetery. If you've never experienced one of those, we encourage you to come on out and do so. It is quite something to start in the dark and finish in the light. What a neat thing. And of course, we've been handing out cards left and right, inviting people to services this week as a congregation. So we expect it to be pretty full over at the sanctuary. But so that's just a warning for you to come early. Come early, make sure you get a seat. And if you're looking for your seat and somebody is sitting in your seat, introduce yourself. Get over it. All right? All right. That's wonderful. I thought I went forward. I guess not. There we go, Bible study. Bible study continues. Just the only thing to note here is that we're reintroducing Community Night Bible Study as we finish Lent and Easter here. We'll be starting up on the 23rd, and we'll be studying the book of Malachi. So we look forward to that. The other events, we continue to hold before you the Marriage Retreat Cruise. It's a lot of fun. There are some sessions for, relating to marriage, etc., and bringing the gospel of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ into it. But at the same time, there's a lot of free time and a lot of fun on the cruise. So we encourage you, if you haven't already done so, to sign up for that. Some other news. There we go. I have vacation the week of May 18th. And that's just Monday through Friday. I'll be here for the Sunday services on each side of that. But just so you know, I'm not going to be here the 18th. Mary Lou and Sophie will be working their usual days, Thursday, Friday. And of course, the pastors at St. Luke's will be around. So there is always coverage. If you need a pastor, please call. Note the call day is April 30th, which is coming up faster than the seminarians probably want it to. And then again, some of them wish it's probably over with. But call day is coming up at St. Louis on April 30th. And that's when we get to hear where our former vicar is going and his wife. That's Rob and Alyssa. And then we get to hear who the new vicar is for the coming year. And that's always hard for the vicar that's here because he starts getting ignored. I don't know why that is. But at any rate, the rumor mill is that we're going to be getting both a vicar and a deaconess intern this year. And the deaconess intern, we're planning on having her work over here at the Haven through December 31st. And then she will shift over to the church to change from adult elderly ministry to the children, etc. She's going to run the full gamut while she's here, which means that she's going to be busy with Vacation Bible School. All right. And we're going to get to more Vacation Bible School in just a moment. But first, an update on Sophie and Mary Lou. They have both passed all of their entrance exams to enter the deaconess program at the St. Louis Seminary. So we look forward to them starting in the fall. Yep. And that means they go to orientation. I think it's like the third week in August, somewhere in there. Deaconess Emily McLean is going to be their mentor. And so she's going to go out there with them for orientation and help them get through all of the ins and outs of seminary life, etc. Now, they're going to be doing most of the program remotely, okay? So they're going to be here nearly all the time, just like they're working today, full, half time over in their healthcare jobs and then half time for me. But we're going to vary their duties a little bit more to tailor it to being a deaconess, of course. So that means they're a little apprehensive about this, but they're going to have to do some Bible study. So we need you to get involved when they are doing Bible study and help them along and give them a little bit of encouragement as they go. And I promised we would get back to, there is, I think, 1 or 2 weeks a year where they have to be at St. Louis. So they will be gone for just a little bit to do their intensive studies, where they just throw them in 40 hours, here we go, and they plow through something. And then they come back and write a project or something like that. I don't know how the deaconesses do it, but leave that to Deaconess Emily to make sure that all happens. So I promised we get back to VBS, and to do so, I'm going to invite Annalisa Fitzsimons up here because she's going to, I was going to make a slide for it, but I figured she's better. So here we go. Annalisa.
Thank you. Hi. Like Pastor Elliott said, I'm Annalisa. I'm one of our directors of Christian education over at the church, and I want to invite you to participate in our Vacation Bible School this summer. So we are unique. In the past few years, we started to do 2 weeks of Vacation Bible School, which means we need twice the volunteers. So let me tell you a little bit about them before you jump right in, and I'll give you some different options. So the first week of Vacation Bible School is June 9th through the 13th. And that's like a very traditional Vacation Bible School like you've seen done before. We have kindergarten through 5th graders rotating through crafts, snack, games, Bible story, and music. It's the most fun in the whole world. They're color coded by t-shirts, and we really need lots and lots of adults just to like, oh look, she's wearing her VBS t-shirt looking just like this. Yep, just like that. She looks so good. We really just need adults to like corral them from place to place. They're very small. They're very cute. You will love them. So that's the first week, June 9th through the 13th. And then the second week, we started a vacation Bible school for middle school students. And so from the 16th to the 20th, it's a little more modernized VBS for the older kids. So instead of having like the songs where you do the motions, we have live music. Each day, one of our pastors will give like a mini sermon, and then the kids will go in small groups and talk about what the pastor said that day based on the Bible story from the previous week of VBS. And then we do lots of different activities like painting rocks, or there's like a water day. And so that week of VBS is a little bit more relational. You get to really like connect one-on-one with the students because you're the one that's leading their small group time. So number one, need adult volunteers. So if you are able or available to volunteer, we would love to have you for either or both weeks. If you are like, that sounds like my worst nightmare, we have an option for you too. In the church narthex, starting after Easter, you'll see, so the theme this year is True North. So it's like kind of like an Alaska, Montana kind of theme. So we're going to bring all of the Christmas trees out. It's going to be magical. But so in the narthex, starting the week after Easter, we'll have a tree that will have snowflakes on it, kind of like ornaments. And you can take those as items that will be written on them to donate. So for example, you'll take the snowflake that says 100 popsicle sticks, and you would go buy 100 popsicle sticks and donate them for Vacation Bible School. We also need a lot of Dunkin' Donuts gift cards because one of the days for snack, we're giving them donut holes, and donut holes for 500 is kind of pricey. So those are a few ways if you're able to donate, if you're able to help, and even if neither of those options work for you, if you would just cover all these wonderful children in prayer as we look forward to sharing the love of Jesus with them. So thank you. If you want to sign up, it's sllcs.org/VBS. Or if you just go on the website, it's under registrations. So June 9th through the 13th. Just, yeah, you got it. Okay.
Thank you, Annalisa. I guess up next would be Lori, right? That's usually what happens. Yes, Lori Baker is next.
Thank you. Okay, so I want to say congrats to the Haven residents for our golf tournament winners yesterday. They kind of slaughtered us, but that's okay. We'll get you next time. So our individual low scorers, resident Jim Swanson, and then our staff Vince Farina. But we want to get a bigger crowd next time, so we'll put it out there and let you know when that's going to happen with more information. Our Washington, D.C. trip is coming up next week. So this Thursday, I encourage all travelers to come here and hear a presentation. There's a lot of information, especially the White House tour, that there's rules and regulations we have to follow, so I have to go over everything with you, and then expectations, so on. So I encourage all the travelers to be here this Thursday at 10 o'clock here in Fellowship Hall. And then, of course, bingo next Wednesday, and then our birthday luncheon will be at Cracker Barrel. And then our upcoming events, we will have a Cinco de Mayo party this year that will be held on May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, and more information will come out on that. Any questions for me? Okay, Steph, you're up.
Too many. I'm like Pastor Elliott. Too many things. Hi. Good afternoon. So I would like to introduce our newest residents, and I don't think either couple is here today. But first we have Reverend Warren and Susie Heinzelman, and they came all the way from Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. Their new address over on Chipmunk Lane, 1551. And some of you probably already met her because she was volunteering at the flea market. I saw her. And then next we have Richard and Carol Otto, and they are from right here in Winter Springs. And they are back in Section 4, 1316 Haven Drive. And they probably look familiar to you because you've probably seen them over at St. Luke's. So that is it for me. Anybody have any questions? No? Okay. Next up is Jerry Griffing. Want me to do this for you from the back, or you got it? I got it.
Okay, thank you. And then there's me. So I want to first, let's see, let me get to my notes here. First, I want to address Annalisa. Was that it, Pastor Annalisa? So for those of you that are going to volunteer, I would like to just say that if you're doing the popsicle sticks, I will be glad to help eat some of those popsicles. I prefer fruity flavors, but I don't mind chocolate and vanilla. So if you need some help creating those sticks, please think of me as we go through there. So let's see. So I'm going to do kind of follow same format. I'll try and be somewhat brief today, but follow the same format as I usually do. Talk about a few quick things, and then I'll kind of round out with a more detailed discussion. I don't know how much more detail, but a little bit more information and update on kind of the budgeting and rate process stuff. We started that last month. I talked a little bit about it. I want to keep bringing it up and talking a little bit more and more, and keeping you guys involved and kind of reminding you of what these processes and things are. So starting with the flea market, what a wonderful day. And I think I say this every year, and I guess it's good for me that I don't have a great memory, because every year it's just the most amazing thing to see all of this happen. It's amazing to see all of you guys come together. It's amazing to see people from outside come onto our campus and experience what Lutheran Haven is and what Lutheran Haven is like. And we had so many new residents this year that volunteered and came in. And so there's thank you for our newer residents who are now starting to get involved. And thank you for all our residents who have been leading this thing for years and years and years. I met a lady, I broke rules and was a rogue taxi driver. I was in a golf cart and somebody needed a ride, so I picked her up and a couple other people, and she was talking to me. This was her 39th flea market. Local Oviedo. She's missed one flea market since she's been in Oviedo. And she said, I love coming here. And it made me kind of, after I did that, and I was just kind of had the luxury of just kind of standing and watching all this stuff happen, it kind of occurred to me. So we talk about all our words and our faith and all those kinds of things. And I think even though people driving in see it's Lutheran Haven, so they have this big hint that this is a faith-centered community, there is that big hint. I'll grant you that. But if that wasn't there, what always just makes me feel so good inside and so happy that I'm here and being able to be a part of this community is I just sit there and watch, and just the way all the residents and the staff treat all the people that come in, they don't need us to say anything. They can see it in what we do and how we act and how we welcome them and what we do with it. And to me, that's just amazing, because that's living that life. And it was this year. I think I don't know why, but I think I felt that more than anything. So I just wanted to share that with you, and thank you for. It's just an awesome thing. And it was a beautiful day, great weather, Food was good. We raised a lot of money. So I think on the scroll it was somewhere around 28,000, but that included the startup cash. So the net was right about 26,000, I think. Is that correct, Michael? Right around $26,000. Just amazing. The setup went as smooth as I think I've ever seen it. The tear down and everything was, I think we were pretty much done by about 3 o'clock. And that's just, I don't think that's happened before, unless it was pouring down rain and everybody just ran away. But, so that's a flea market. I probably said a little more than I should. But again, thank you guys and thank the staff and everything, because it was just a wonderful, wonderful day. The resident handbook, we got the comments back from the resident executive council committee. I always forget what the C stands for. One of those things, and there were a lot of comments. It was quite obvious that I did not do well in English class with punctuation and some grammar issues, but overall there were no major issues, so it's flying on smoothly. We're in the process of making all the final changes, and I expect to be able to publish that in the next few weeks. And I want to thank the officers of the executive committee for taking the time to look at it and giving us their feedback. It was very helpful in the process. Church channel. We've been working with St. Luke's trying to improve that. Did anybody have an opportunity to see it this week? How did it go this week? Do we know? Okay, I'm getting thumbs up in the back. So it was good. We're not finished, so we're still trying to. Am I throwing you under the bus, Jeff? No, okay. So we're still not finished. We've still got some things to do to try and improve it, but we expected it to be a whole lot better and maybe even watchable this time. And I believe, Andy, did we achieve that? Yes, much better. Okay, all right, so much better. So that's great. So we're finally making progress on that in that area. So the next topic was Good Friday, I believe. So just as a reminder to all of our residents, the Good Friday operations, transportation, marketing, and the administration offices will be closed on Good Friday. That's one of the holidays that we celebrate. We gave up a more traditional holiday so that we could take time and celebrate Good Friday. We get down to some safety concerns. Just some reminders. We've had a lot of concerns about people driving through the campus, not stopping at stop signs, all these things. We've been trying to do more about that, but we're somewhat limited in what we can do. But David, I know, has talked to St. Luke's, or Pastor Elliott, I think, mentioned it to St. Luke's to remind parents. David and his crew have been a little more authoritative in not letting people drive through in the mornings. We can't really do that in the afternoons. We just don't have the manpower to close that off and stop that because there's so many different departure times from campus. And so we're still seeing some people not use the roundabouts the right way, going to the left instead of to the right. And while it is outside people, it's some of you guys too, So we are not immune from that, and just so you know, we're as susceptible to not following the rules as anybody else. Raleigh and I were out collecting signs, and he's like, "Man, the sign's right over here. I'm just going to go." And he said, "I sure hope nobody's watching." And about 4 residents come around the corner, and he goes, "Oh my gosh!" So I think that's why he's not here today, because he doesn't want to. But he told me a story about his mom. But so we're doing our best to try and control that. But the truth is, we have very little other than reminding people and relying on people to know what the right thing to do is. We'll try and address, if we know the individual or can recognize the individual, try and address it individually. We could ask for sheriffs to come and during school, when school gets out, for those times, but they would charge us for that. and you guys would end up paying for that. And so that's kind of just try and remember, be a good neighbor. And remember, you've got a lot of our folks that love to be outside and walk around and ride their bicycles, so we appreciate you letting us know. And I think what we've done is we've started. We're going to set up a calendar type thing so that every X number of months, automatically on the scrolls, some of these reminders, safety reminders, internet scam reminders, and things like that. So it ticks off, and then we automatically put it on there so that we don't forget. Because I think what happens is we do it, and then we forget to do it, and 4 months later somebody says, "Hey, how come you're not putting it up there?" And we're like, "Oh yeah, we forgot." So that is on those things. That's all on the quick hit stuff. So on the budgets and the rate setting, just a little bit of the same thing that I talked about last time. The budget's based on Board of Trustees objectives that they want us to achieve as management. It balances the current needs of the community with the future needs of the mission and the organization. And then it represents pretty much our best guess, management's best guess of what it's going to take to fund all that. And it is a guess. And so right now it's becoming increasingly difficult to guess that. So we're 6 months into the year. We can make some predictions, but remember, this budget doesn't start until September, and we're trying to predict what's going to happen from September going forward. So we're trying to look through this crystal ball and see what's going to happen in 18 months. And with the current administration and all the volatility of things that are going on, that's just added a whole nother exponential level of unpredictability. It may be good, it may be bad, and it's not that those things don't happen. Those things have happened before, but it's just going to make it a little more difficult. So there's going to be a higher degree of uncertainty, or confidence level in our projection. And I say that now. Things may have totally settled out by the time we do the final budget, and we'll have a much better idea and have a higher degree of confidence in the numbers that we're projecting. So on the rate setting, and I'm not talking about the advance and the entrance fees. I'm just talking about monthly rates when I talk about rate setting right now, although some of these things might apply a little bit to it. So for new residents, so that's residents that aren't here yet. So for new residents coming in, we look at what the monthly rates are. We look at what's going on in and around us competitively, and we look at what we need to do with our mission. So we try and price those, and by what I mean by the mission is we still want to be affordable, and we still want to be affordable within the market. So that doesn't mean we don't raise our rates, but we try and keep ourselves lower than like-kind facilities. And that's part of our mission. It's always been part of our mission, and we want to maintain that. But so I think I'm trying to remember where we were last year, but I want to say we still, at the end of the day, for new people moving in, we were still somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 20%, depending on the type of unit, et cetera, than overall than most of our competition. So we try and be the best value, and we try and be affordable relative to other communities around us. For existing residents, we implemented a new process last year. We're going to follow that process this year. We made a few tweaks. Obviously we got a lot of feedback from that, and we've made some tweaks that we hope will make that process a little better, and provide you guys with a little bit more. So in 2025, like I said, we adopted this new process. The new methodology was designed to We had the economy had changed, our whole industry had changed in terms of reimbursements and all these other things, and COVID and all these things caused all the economic conditions that our industry operated under. And then in response to that, many of our many communities within the retirement industry changed the way they practiced and the way they ran their organization. So we needed to, as an organization, we needed to adapt and change the way we did business. And we focused, the second thing we focused on that was part of the need to do that change is what I call the gap. I call it the gap. And what I'm going to do, I'm not going to go deeply into it, but essentially over the past many years, rates were not raised high enough to cover the increase in the cost and what it cost us to provide the services. And that occurred over many, many, many years. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to go into great detail on that because I did that last year, but what I want to do is refer all of you new residents that may be curious as to how this came about, and residents who've been here and went through all this with us last year, if you need a refresher or want to go back and revisit how this gap was created that we have to address. The August 27th town hall meeting is on our YouTube channel. Jeff, through his whatever stuff he does, now records all these meetings, puts them up on our YouTube channel, and they're available for you to go and look at and listen to anytime you want to. So that August meeting was a particularly long one because of that issue. So that's the only one I think that there are two parts. There's August 27th, part 1, August 27th, part 2. So you'll want to go to the part 2. And that's where it goes in through this pretty lengthy explanation of that process. But I don't want to go through that today because those of you that had to listen to me say it last year might have a rebellion because it's not really exciting, but it is very informative. So that's what we call the gap. And again, the goal, as always, is number one in our methodology is to try and make sure that gap does not grow. So for what's going to happen in 2026, we want to make sure that we have enough of an increase that gap, that we don't add to that gap, that it covers what the real increase is going to be. And then the second element of this process is to address whatever remaining gap exists. So last year we didn't close the gap. We only did a small portion. And so that gap will change each year for a number of reasons. We have new people moving in who are paying a higher monthly fee, so that reduces that gap. We might have, if we perform better than we thought we did, and exceeded, the gap didn't grow, it actually shrank a little bit. Maybe we had a little bit extra for the cost last year. That contributes to that gap decreasing. So we recalculate that gap every single year to do that. And then the third element is we look at all that and where that puts us in the marketplace so that we try and maintain the piece of our mission that relates to being affordable and having some affordable housing. So that was the goal of that methodology, and that hasn't changed. So I'm going to go through a brief, and this is really a higher level look at it. I'm not going to go into great detail, but it's probably more detail than some of you want to hear. But we're trying to be more transparent this year. We heard it loud and clear that we were not as transparent as we needed to be last year, and so we're trying to rectify that. So the rate increases for existing residents, okay? Rate increases are based on three different components to them. The first component is the amount that we make sure doesn't increase the gap. So that's what do we think costs are going to do from this year to next year. That's component number one. That applies to every unit with a small minor exception, which I'll go into. The second element of that is last year for residents who were existing on our campus, we introduced a second person fee that hadn't been there before. And our phase-in of that for existing residents was over a 3-year period. So this year will be the second tier of that phase-in. And so that only applies to certain cottage units. Doesn't apply to landings units. It only applies to certain cottage units. So that doesn't apply to everybody. First one pretty much applies to everybody. Second one only to those cottage units that are affected by that second person fee. And then the last element is addressing how are we going to shrink that gap and get us closer and closer to where the monthly service fees equal and actually exceed a little bit, so that we can start putting and building our reserves back and continuing the mission and never have ourselves be in this position again. And so that only applies to units. Michael and I and the board agree, we go through calculations and we say, okay, this element is only going to apply to people whose monthly fee is less than X. And essentially the reasoning behind that is that group of people generally tends to be the people that had been here for a long time and didn't get rate increases probably when they should have, or as the organization went. So that one does not apply to everybody as well. So the sum of each of those components is what goes into your rate, the dollar amount that your rate is going to go up. So if only one of those components applies, it's going to be your rate, your current rate plus that component. If 2 of those apply, it's going to be your rate plus plus. If all 3, it's going to be plus plus plus. So that is that's basically an overview. It's a little more complicated. I went through a little bit of it with Dwayne, so Dwayne can tell you it's a little more complicated than that, but that's the gist of it, and that's the practicality of it. So things to keep in mind. I believe that's where. Yep. Things to keep in mind are rate increases. In the past, rate increases were pretty much like a flat thing. It's going to be 3%. Everybody's going to get a 3% increase. Everybody's going to have 4%, 2%, 1% in some cases increase in their rate. So that's no longer the case because we're doing dollar amounts for each of those components. So so what happens is because the base amount, so the current rate that you're paying, is very different for many of you. Then when you take that dollar amount and apply that base to it, it could be the same dollar amount. You apply different bases to it, you're going to have a different percentage. The example that I said, a very simple example, is let's say you and your neighbor have the same increases, right? You're only subject to the fee increase, so the first component, and you get a $50 increase in your rate. Well, if your neighbor or if you are paying $1,000 a month, that $50 represents a 5% increase. If your neighbor is paying $1,200 a month, that same $50 is a 4.2% increase. So you might be going, you only got a 4.2, I got a 5, that's not fair, but really you got the same dollar amount of increase. So that's why that in the past we were so used to saying, everybody getting this 3 or 4%. That's why it doesn't, that percentage doesn't work. So you can look at and see what your percentage is, but it's not necessarily comparable to what your neighbor is, especially if there's multiple components. Because if you had one component and they were subject to 2 components, now you're comparing apples to cucumbers. So it's really just a nonsensical comparison. I mentioned earlier that there were some limitations on rate increases, so there are. So if you moved into the community after February 1st of this year, of 2025, this year you will not get a rate increase. We've always done that. So newer people moving in, the first year they don't get a rate increase, then you fall into the pool and you get all those rate increases. So that's one. The second one is, the second exception is that if in general, if your current rate plus your rate increase brings your rate to higher than what our published rate is going to be for the type of unit that you have, you're capped at that published rate. So you will not pay more than what we charge a new person coming in. So for some people, they're pretty darn close. And I think last year we had about 7 or 8 where that limitation came in. So they didn't, the full rate increase might not have applied to them because of that cap. So that's what we do for that. And let's see. So current status of where we are with things. We're still in the information gathering, very similar to what I said last year. We just got our 6-month numbers. We're trying to put together labor budgets, get all our hours, make sure we've got all those in. We've got some labor law changes that may impact that. We're looking at positions and what positions we need to replace, or do we need to change, that kind of stuff. So we're trying to get all that stuff together. Most of the files, I think, have pretty much been set up. We have to do some updating on them with our current information to start getting a good idea of what things might look at. So that's kind of where we are there. And then as I go back to the transparency, and this is what I said last time, we're trying to provide you with information so that you can understand the process and where we're coming from, and we'll try and give some indication of what those rates might look like. It's just a little too early for us to put any numbers to it yet. We're including the president of the rec committee, council, on in the process. Number one, for input, things that we don't think about, how it might impact you, or how we might do a better job of presenting things to you, and to kind of hopefully add some integrity to the process. So we have it's not us checking us. We go through the process, and so we're kind of excited about that. And then we want to share the expected costs and the reasons behind them. So if there's large increases, we want you to understand the reason behind them. And as we go through this process, we'll be discussing that with Dwayne, and he can kind of communicate that down, and we'll continue each month to have a little section on this with you guys to bring you up to speed on that. So that was a lot of stuff that I threw out at you. It was very at kind of a higher level for us, but it's still pretty complicated even at that higher level. There's a lot of moving parts in there. So that's it on the budget stuff, budget and rates for now. Now I'm going to play a little game for you guys. Did you know? So I'm going to ask you guys to envision something. You don't have to close your eyes. You can just pop there in your brain. But I want you to go back over the last few years, maybe 7, 8, 10 years, and just kind of close your eyes and think about all the things that have been happening on this campus, all the events that we've had, trips that have been taken, Ark Encounter, you got one coming to DC, you've got, just remember that, and if you can, I can do a little picture show in my head because I look at all the pictures before board meetings, and to let the board know what's going on and show them how much energy and fun and how much activity goes on. So just think about the ones that you've been on, the times that you've had. I don't know, the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, and all these things, the horse racing, whatever thing we did here for the Derby, the Tea Party where somebody wore a toga, I think, in the fashion show here. So all those things, just take a second, picture that in your mind, flash through those pictures. If you have to pretend it's a Viewmaster little thing that we all grew up with, do that. And there's a commonality in all of them. And that commonality, besides our faith, is our Lori Baker. She's been leading this residential living for, I think, the last 7 years, 6, 7. Yeah, because she started here in 2015, and she was over in the administration building as a special projects coordinator to help coordinate all the landing stuff. And she did all that, and I came about a year or so after her, and after sharing a building with me for a couple of years, she decided to change jobs and move into a whole separate building. Still a little bit upset about that, but she was able to do so much and move our program forward and advance us. And she is now apparently, Fellowship Hall is not far enough away from me. She is going to be retiring in July and leaving our campus. So thank you, Lori, for hating on me like that. But just thank her. She has been such a blessing to the organization. I've known Lori for a long time because we were at the Westminster organization together. She was at a campus and I wasn't, but she loves you guys, and she puts all that into what she does and coming up with the ideas. And it's not always smooth. Life isn't always smooth, but by gosh, there's nobody that loves you guys more and would do more for you and works harder to make these trips and these events as fun as they can be. And we're going to miss the crud out of her. And so we are starting to get ready to advertise and find someone to follow in her footsteps. I'm not going to use the word replace because she's irreplaceable. But so that's the did you know for today. Did you know that Lori will be leaving us? So there you go. And now I think we are ready for questions. Thank you, Lori. I didn't even make it. She's running away. See, she's even running away now. Boy, can't lose for winning. No, win for losing. So any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Getting back to the flea market, where did all the leftovers go?
Oh, okay. So and so for you flea market experts, let me see if I paid attention. So this year we tried to find a balance between some of the special, I'm going to use the word charities, special missions that are special to our heart. So some smaller groups that we support, and so we set aside some things for them. But different than the past, Goodwill this year decided that they would gladly take anything that didn't sell. So they came in and they took that. So it's all going to a good cause. We were able to preserve some of the, supporting some of the charities, and particularly for certain churches, sometimes not around us. I think we have one that's going Wisconsin or somewhere. Is that right? Or I don't know. There's some, but out of state even, or maybe even out of the country. But so we wanted to preserve that, to stay in touch with missions that were particularly personal to us versus just teen charity or something like that. And Goodwill, it went so much smoother this year because last year we had so many different charities. They're kind of in a nice way, I guess, fighting with each other over who gets what kind of stuff. And so we were able to eliminate that and eliminate the number of trucks on the campus and have a little better control. So did I say that mostly okay? Okay, all right. So that's what happened to all the extra. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Can you review the ownership and structure of the Haven as far as governance goes?
Yeah, I'll do that the best I can off the top of my head. So the question was, thank you, Jeff, for holding up the repeat the question sign. The question was, could I go over the structure of governance and ownership of the Haven? Okay, so first, technically, because the Haven is a not-for-profit, nobody owns it. There is no owner. But it is controlled by the Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees, through the bylaws of the organization when it was first set up by the SELC, when Andrew Duda Sr., I guess, made the donation, and the other people who contributed to that made the donation to the Synod, there were stipulations, and in the bylaws, the board of trustees, I believe it's limited to 12 people. There is the senior pastor of St. Luke's is what do they call that? He's got, whoever that person is, they got a seat on the board. There's a specific word for that, and I can't remember what that is. What's that? What's it called? De facto, I guess. Yeah. So we've got that one. Then you've got then from each of the districts that compose the SELC, or each of the areas that compose the SELC, they each have one representative on the board. Then there's a representative from the Florida-Georgia district. There's a representative from the Andrew Duda family. I believe there's also, in addition to the senior pastor at St. Luke's, there is a St. Luke's lay member. And then I think there are one or two other lay members. And then the remaining, whichever ones aren't prescribed by the bylaws of the corporation, there's flexibility to add maybe two other just people that we want to add to the board. So I believe I may have a couple of those numbers wrong, but that's basically what it is. So it's not an open board, it's a very prescribed board. The purpose of that was to make sure that the Haven maintained its Christ-centeredness, and in particular its LCMS Christ-centeredness, and what those values are. Yes, sir.
So I have heard that there's LLCs for different areas of ministry on campus, and is that just going to protect us from bankruptcy and things like that?
Okay. The question is, he's heard that there's several different LLCs that cover each of the different missions or what I would call lines of business on the campus, and would that protect us from bankruptcy or those types of things? And the answer, it's a multiple part answer for that. So first, yes, there are multiple LLCs for each line of business. All of those LLCs have one member, and that's Lutheran Haven Inc. So there's not separate boards for each of those. It's all one board that under Lutheran Haven Inc., but it's legally separate entities, and they govern those separate entities. So it's the same people governing this, govern that. And so what that does is it protects us not from bankruptcy, but from risk. So if something happens let's say something happens at the pool. Well, the pool is its own separate entity. So they wouldn't be able to attach to the cottages any kind of damages or anything like that to the cottages or to the landings or to whatever other ministries we have. So that's the purpose of those LLCs, is to protect from risk. Bankruptcy, if you go bankrupt, you go bankrupt. That doesn't protect. It might shield some other things from being a part of it, but bankruptcy itself really isn't a huge concern when you divide those up. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
It's not really a question, it's kind of a comment, and it's something that you really didn't touch on. And we had the increase in.
Oh, I'm just going to give you this because I won't remember right now.
Okay. No, just that the increases to maintain our quality, our status of life here, whatever, is kind of a given. Something that he didn't talk about is if we're unhappy with making increases in payments, where I used to live, temporary housing, I ran into one of my neighbors. People have bought in. They're permanently closing their swimming pool. They can tell you to start cutting your own grass. And all of these things that they're not telling us that their competition is. It's 3.6 miles to where I used to live, and they're telling people we're closing the pool, you might have to cut your own grass, and it's either that or what he said.
Okay, I hope you guys got all that. So, but essentially, other communities are addressing their financial needs in different ways, and so some of them are cutting services so they don't have to raise fees. Some of them may be changing responsibility of who does what. We're doing our very best to not do that. We're trying to preserve what we have. We're trying, and we have year over year, and we'll talk about this in another meeting, but year over year, since we implemented our repositioning plan, I think we're going into year 4 of that now. Each year, our operations have gotten better. The operating results have gotten better, but they haven't gotten better enough, so to speak. But because we continue to move in the right direction, that's why we're not doing some of those things, Bruce. I appreciate you bringing that up, and because that is happening in some places, and we don't want that to happen here. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on. I'll get right back to you. Apparently, I didn't see the chat thing come up. So let's see. Boy, this ought to be fun. I got to see it. Where is it? Oh. I'm struggling, yeah. I struggle all the time. Let's see. So now I should be here. There we go. All right. So somebody called in and said to add onto the 3 components that I spoke about, add an additional component for low-income residents. And so I think what they're saying is, hey, if I'm a low-income resident, I might either get a lesser increase or be waived from getting an increase. And it's a valid point. We handle it differently. So one of our missions of the organization is our benevolent care mission. And what we try not to do, in order to kind of implement something that this question referred to, we would have to delve into we'd have to ask you guys to provide us with your financials all the time. You know, we do that when you move in, and we pretty much leave you alone after that when it comes to what your personal financial situation is. And the reason that we're able to do that, and that we don't continually ask for it, is we have this benevolent care ministry. So the creation of this benevolent care ministry is, again, one of the beautiful things of the Haven and those who have been here before us. And, you know, David Vorpego reminds me all the time that, you know, all these people from generations ago donated to the Haven very substantially because of the love and care and faith that this community produces. And it produces that mostly from you guys and from management letting, kind of keeping that. And so God put it on their hearts to try and help those who may be less fortunate and may be income challenged. And he did that through the gift to the Haven that allowed us to establish this benevolent care fund. So the way we handle that when people don't have income or limited income is we say, hey, God is here. He's providing this for you. Come take it. And then only that person needs to share some of their financial information with us, because every definition of I'm low income is dependent on what you're comparing it to. And so what we say to them is come ask. God's putting it right there for you. Don't reject it if you need it, because that's a gift from God that he put on somebody's heart to give to the community. So that's how we handle that issue for people who are income challenged or run into other outlive their resources. And God bless them. I hope that a whole bunch of you do, because that means you're leading good long lives. And so that's how we handle that condition. Any more questions? That's right. I forgot. I can bring it back. I'm going to bring it over to you.
The last official word we heard was that the pool heaters were working intermittently. I'm wondering, are they back to normal function, or do we have a lemon?
Well, that's a good question. So, if you didn't hear, the question had to do with the reliability of the pool heaters. Fair enough? Yeah. So we did have a lot of trouble with them when it started. Some of it we believe had to do with some lightning issues storm issues that happened. Right now they're working pretty good. They're very steady. We've part of it was also we didn't know how to reset them. So we had to keep calling somebody out that, and now our maintenance guys in Raleigh and them know. So if the heater is not working, I think Raleigh checks it, or David checks it every morning. He jumps in the pool and says, whoop, not working, or whoo, that feels good, it's working. No, but he goes and checks those heaters. We have basically two units that are the heaters, and they go check, and they have been working pretty steadily. I don't think we've had any major, yeah. Okay, so David said every now and then they have a couple issues, and then either he and Raleigh go over and set it, and anybody that's ever owned a pool, you're going to have those issues from time to time. You're not going to have something that your pool pump doesn't work 100% of the time. But I think for the most part, it's worked. Now, a lot of people don't think it is or think it's working too well because of their personal preference of what the water temperature should be. So just because it feels cool to you doesn't mean the heater's not working. It just means you like it warmer than the heater is set for in some cases. And then we have some people that this is too hot. If I wanted to take a bath, I would go in my house. So you know we won't be able to personalize that for you. Anything else? Going once, going twice. Have a beautiful, blessed day, and thank you for letting me be a part of this community.